I'll tell you what, the Chiefs losing to the Broncos wasn't even the biggest kick in the groin I got this weekend. And I know I'm not alone. I'll explain that coming up here in a few minutes. But the Chiefs fall to the Broncos 22-19 yesterday on the road, late afternoon window. They are now 0-5 this season in one-score games. This after putting up a 12-0 number last year in these one-score games. You knew it had to come back to the median. But it'd have to be 0-5 this year in these one-score games. My goodness. You know, just the little things. They are not doing the little things well. They're not doing them well. I mean, watching that guy clear through on Harrison Butker's missed extra point that got blocked. It wasn't missed. It was blocked. I missed it because I was taking care of a toddler in the bathroom. I'm like, oh, they scored a touchdown. Great. We'll be up 20-16. I come back. What happened? It's 19-16. I got to rewind the tape and see that Butker had no chance. I mean, it's those little things, John. They're killing them this year in these one-score games.
Oh, I felt like Archie Bunker from the old All in the Family. You're killing me to your point there. You're killing me there. Jeez.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, it's so frustrating. It's nice to be on the other side of these one-score games like 12-0 last year, even though you know you're sometimes getting lucky, right?
Oh, yeah.
But this year, man, the Jacksonville game last night, the Bills game, the Eagles game, you look the Chargers game in week 1, you look at these games and you start banging your head against the wall.
I was telling Mark in here, I've got my 30,000-foot view and the old fan overview of all of this stuff, and I'm like, it's just they played so much football here recently, and they have used a lot of football luck. So for that run for three-peat, would we have traded it? It's like, dude, there's no more luck in the tank.
Well, that's fine. I'm with you there. I'm with you there.
That's the way we got to look at it.
I'm with you there. I will totally give that to you.
The scales of justice balance out.
Yes, exactly. Bernie Sanders is very proud, all right? It's all about finding that equilibrium.
I will say all those playoff or losses came to teams that will be in the playoffs or are in the playoff.
Well,
sure, no question.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I look at the schedule, and I'm like, okay, they're 5-5. They've got 7 games left. 6-1 is not unreasonable. Now, you got to beat Indianapolis this weekend here at home, and they're 8-2. But even if, 7-0 is not impossible, 6-1, you sit there and you say to yourself, will you take 11-6 with this schedule and roll the dice in the wild card? Probably do it at that point.
I like my other little haters theory. I mean, the Patriots and the Colts, what's their schedule from last year, right?
I know. You're absolutely right about that, because how the NFL does it, if you're just a casual sports fan, is if you didn't have a good record last year, you get an easier schedule for the upcoming season.
You play your mirror likeness in the other divisions, basically.
Exactly. So the Chiefs are sitting here, and they've got obviously the hardest schedule in the NFL, bar none, and they have for a long time. And you know what? Now they're dropping the one-score games. I still believe this team's making the playoffs. They're not winning the division anymore after yesterday. The Broncos are 9-2. The Chiefs are 5-5. I still believe they're going to be in the playoffs. Playoffs, yes, I still believe they're going to be in the playoffs. But as Mahomes said yesterday, they got to figure out these close games.
It sucks. Don't get me wrong. Like you got to feel that, but you got to be able to kind of use that energy to push it into the next week, into the rest of the season. And all you can focus on is the next game. You get another opportunity to go out there and prove yourself. And obviously, we've been losing these close games recently, but we've played some good football in spurts. It's just about being more consistent and. Until we go out there and do it, all you can do is just keep saying you got to keep practicing and getting better and better and push yourself to go out there and do it on game day.
Now, he's saying all the right things, but what else is he going to say? He's the leader, he's the face, and to his credit, at least he got in front of the podium. Travis Kelce skipped it again yesterday. Dude's a leader, veteran, breaks a record yesterday, Priest Holmes' record for most touchdowns by a Kansas City Chiefs player. And Travis Kelce decides, I'm not talking to the media. In fact, he told reporters, if you want to ask me about the record, I could care less. I think he meant he could not care less, but he said I could care less. This is when leaders show themselves. This is when they show who they really are. And Travis Kelce, likely in the last year of his career, can't get up there and answer a few questions as this team deals with its most tumultuous season in nearly a decade? What kind of leadership is that? What does that say to the rest of the team, the young guys out there? I mean, Mahomes gets up there every game, says the right things, takes the blame. It's on me. I got to be better. Whether it's true or not, he says it because that's what leaders do. Your co-leader supposedly can't even take a few questions from Kansas City reporters. Are you kidding me? And this is not the first time Kelsey's done that. I mean, he skips out on the podium, it seems like most times now. He'll answer his own questions from his brother on their podcast on Wednesday night. Whoa, boy, really showing the team what leadership looks like there, buddy. I just get up there, answer a few questions, say a few platitudes, and then go home. It's not hard. It's really not hard. And when a team is struggling and when a team is losing, that's when you see the character of people. And watching Travis Kelce not have the ability to show leadership in these moments right now in this season has been such a massive disappointment. But it wasn't as disappointing as the other kick in the groin I got this weekend. And that would be the property tax bill from Johnson County, Kansas. Did you get yours yet, Mark? Or have you not opened the mail? Maybe you didn't want to ruin your weekend by opening that thing up.
I don't think I've received it yet.
Okay.
I'll keep an eye out on it.
Well, just make sure you're in the right frame of mind, okay? It'll come from the Johnson County Treasurer's Office. Open that thing up, and they break it down. They actually have the dollars and cents on what you're going to owe this year versus last year. And for me, it was up about $250. And you're thinking, or I'm thinking to myself, for what? For what? I mean, the state was up 5%. Johnson County was up 5% in how much they wanted from me. The school was up 5%. The city was up 5%. They were all up. Now, I know you're sitting there in Jackson County and you're like, hold my beer, man. That's nothing. I get it. But Johnson County hasn't gotten the attention because it just hasn't been as inept of a process as what you've dealt with over in Jackson County.
But you guys still need to get a free coupon for a lube.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, exactly right. So this is just, it's awful. And it's coming right before Christmas. There's the Christmas gift from Johnson County and the cities and the schools and the state of Kansas. And here's what I'll say about the state. You know, you got all these Republicans getting set to run for governor next year. And they're all talking about, we're going to take care of the property taxes. Okay. So the state property tax bill that I got was $75. The other several thousand is the school, the city, and the county. The state of Kansas reducing my property taxes is a total of maybe $25. Okay? Keep it and figure out what to do that's going to keep the counties and the cities in check as their budgets balloon out of control. Completely out of control. What's Johnson County now up to budget-wise to run the county? It's pushing like $2 billion, right? It's doubled over the last 10 years or so. It was under $1 billion. Now it's like pushing $2 billion. It's crazy. These cities, we talked about Overland Park, they've grown 50% over the last few years in terms of their top-line budget. So all these municipalities and counties are growing at unsustainable rates. And the only way they can keep the gravy train going is by taking more of your money. That's it. That's the only way that they can fund themselves, is by taking more of your money. I mean, I guess sales tax the other way, but you get the point. That's still more of your money, theoretically. They'll say it's all other people paying that. No, you are. And it is the biggest crisis. We talked a lot last week about the homeownership issue, how that is a crisis. What can the feds do about that? The other underlying part of this is how expensive it is for people to stay in their homes, what these property taxes do when it comes to the little things, like paying this every month as part of your payment, obviously. A lot of us just bundle that property tax into the mortgage payment, so it's all driving up in the wrong direction. And you know what else? 2 weeks ago, we had elections in Johnson County on the Kansas side of the state line. You were voting on school board members. You were voting on city council members. And anybody who came across as a fiscal conservative lost. Well, don't look at that property tax bill and then come complaining to me or anybody else about what happened here. if you didn't vote a couple of Tuesdays ago. Those elections matter. And we saw turnout of what? Give or take 20%? These are the people who are driving up your cost of living right in front of your eyes. They're your neighbors and nobody cares. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it was a stark reminder as to how much those elections matter when I opened up that property tax bill over the weekend. 913-408-7957, the text line on the studio line here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Coming up, a couple of big announcements over the weekend from this administration, trending in the right direction after a rough week. We'll tell you what they were next. Well, just hang in there. I'm warning you on a Monday morning. If you're in a bad mood, it's Monday. Chiefs lose yesterday, and you see a bill, if you're in Johnson County, Kansas, from the treasurer's office, well, know that's your property tax bill. So hang tight. Make sure you're in the right frame of mind. Do not do what I did over the weekend. Oh, what's this? Oh, man, that one hurt. Dave in Overland Park. What's up, Dave?
Yeah, I had a little issue with Overland Park and their budgets. You know, for years they've been running this bus service, and the buses are always empty, and you can see through the windows that they're empty. And they put bus stops all up and down Metcalf, and they spend so much money. And then I hear that they're letting people ride the buses for free. They're not even charging them. And it's really a slap in my face as I drive to work every day and try and pay my bills to see this stupid bus go by completely empty. And then they're taking away the left turn lanes and putting in all these bike lanes and everything that I don't want, and they're actually reducing the number of road lanes we've got. So they're actually taking away from us while they're increasing our taxes. And I wish someone would do a Doge type of study on Overland Park and cut out all the waste. I think we could save a lot of money on our house taxes if they could just cut out all the waste.
Well, I mean, yeah, thank you, Dave. Listen, their budget went from $300 million in 2020 to $500 million for the upcoming year. That is what, 66% growth, $200 million on top of $300 million in half a decade. It's untenable. But Overland Park had city council races 2 weeks ago, and status quo won out, which is what I expected would happen. I predicted that here on the show. I wasn't surprised by it. But, you know, if you're upset with what Dave was talking about, I guess try again in 4 years. I mean, maybe people will care. I don't know. But it's just not painful enough right now where people are opening up that letter from the Johnson County Treasurer's Office and saying, I'm done. They just don't care. And this is what you get. That property tax bill that continues to go up well beyond the rate of inflation. And you've seen that now for the last several years. So what you're also seeing now as we get it rolling on a Monday morning, two surprise things coming out of the administration. Both of them I happen to like. Number one, this came down going into the weekend, but there was more talk about it over the weekend. The president has cut tariffs on goods like coffee, bananas, and beef in a bid to slash consumer prices. So this came on Friday that the president would be exempting key agricultural imports, coffee, cocoa, bananas, and certain beef products from higher tariff rates. So that was on Friday, and then yesterday you had Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, talking about it on Fox Business Network, and here's how he danced around this whole thing.
So not only will the tariffs come off some of the things you just listed, like coffee, like the cocoa, many other bananas, many other items, that's a result of the trade deals going through, and then we will see this go down. And we're also seeing the import barriers for the other countries come through. So this is a complete trade policy, and now we are going to see it affect the prices.
Okay. So if I'm understanding that right from Scott Bessent, now that they have trade deals with some of these companies, which just so happens to line up with the week after the president got hit pretty hard on affordability issues, amazingly, deals are struck, and now prices come down because tariff deals are struck. Listen, I've been a supporter and understand the goal here with these tariffs, but that's just not a good explanation. Saying so basically the government gets involved, they artificially drive up the prices is what they're telling me through tariffs, and now they take the tariffs off because they got a trade deal and the prices come back down. So what was the point of all that? I mean, that's basically what Scott Besson just said. We got a trade deal done, so now the prices will come back down. Well, what was the point to begin with if the prices were being artificially driven up due to government policy? That's where I've always struggled with this. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense in certain sectors. I'm just not sure the banana sector and the coffee sector was really the place we were going to be competing here in the U.S. anyway. So that didn't make a lot of sense to me. Beef, okay, I want to help, Kansas and Missouri ranchers first and foremost. But as we talked about a couple of weeks ago when the beef story came up, we heard from farmers here locally and regionally who made it very clear. They've done well, and importing a small amount of beef from Argentina is really not going to do a lot to our prices anyway. So they were not really all that worried. I know the politicians have to say, we don't want that. But just purely based on pricing and supply and demand, it was not going to have a big impact. So that's a big win. That's a good policy over the weekend because as I shared with you, if you saw it on my Facebook page, there was a chart I put up that showed the cost of groceries over the last few years, 2017 up until today. And you go back to 2017 and it cost a family of four about $750 a month for their groceries. That number is now well over $1,000 a month. And while the bulk of that cost increase happened during Joe Biden's time in office from 2021 to 2024, it doesn't matter. People react emotionally when it comes to their politics. We know that. That's how it goes. So if Trump doesn't get that affordability thing, especially at the grocery store, back under control and try to bring it down a hair, it's not going to be easy, but it's part of what he promised. And you know what? We always knew this was going to be issue number one for the people when he got into office. He's got to accomplish this. If not, 2026 is going to be ugly. And then the other thing that came up here yesterday was the Epstein files. So the Epstein files came up yesterday, and the president announcing that he is all set and ready to see the Epstein files released. And I've been saying for the last several months that when it comes to the Epstein files, I did not think it was the big issue or the big thing that was going to make his administration a success or a failure. But I understand why people want him out. I do too in a perfect world. Not because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, boy, I really want to know all the celebrities or the powerful people that might be involved in this thing, but just because I think it's fair to those who have been abused. But this is a total about-face, and I think what the president realized here is, you know what? I got nothing to hide. They're using this against me. Release them. As he said yesterday on Truth Social, I don't care, John. That's what he said.
So happy Thanksgiving. Grab a banana, kids. You want cheese on your burger?
Yeah.
Decaf or regular?
Yeah. And you get a little Epstein file on top. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm all in, man. I'm all in. Well, I love the idea. I love what they're going for here, but I do not know if we're going to be sitting back and talking about this one as some kind of big win down the road. 8:05, good morning. It's great to be here on a Monday on KCMO, despite the fact that the Chiefs came up short against the Broncos, 22-19. Oh, my goodness. We're going to make it. They're 5-5. They're 0-5 in close games after going 12-0 in one-score games last year. Mark did not hit the parlay. The parlay required the Chiefs to win outright. He wasn't betting them against the spread, but Mark, I know it was a rough weekend for you.
Yeah, they tried to get Rashee Rice a touchdown, and it didn't quite work. And I was like, at that point, it's not looking good.
Threw in the towel.
Yeah.
Did you or Keachman hit the pick of the week you guys do at the end of his show?
Yes, I believe we both got it right because he did the under in the Chiefs game.
Okay.
And then I did Georgia minus 6.5.
Against Texas?
Against Texas.
All right. So you guys are still making the folks money.
Yeah.
And then they can use that money to buy their groceries.
Hopefully.
Since those are getting more expensive, it seems like, by the week. That will be the thing that determines 2026. So what you heard now after the government reopened up last week and things are getting back to normal is a lot of discussion around food stamps, right? We have hundreds of thousands of people in Kansas and Missouri on food stamps. You've got 42 million people around the country. And that sounds awfully high in a country that's got about 340 million people in it. How many people actually genuinely need the food stamps? We are a generous nation. We should have a safety net. But 42 million feels like a heck of a lot more than a safety net. So one thing that's being proposed by Brooke Rollins, who runs the USDA and this administration, is to make people reapply for their food stamps to get a real head count on what exactly this number looks like. Here was Shannon Bream of Fox News reporting on this over the weekend.
I'm sure. You know, everything that comes from the Trump administration, I just track it and see how long it takes for it to land at the Supreme Court. So there are going to be legal challenges. But the thing is, most of these programs with SNAP are administered by the states. And a lot of the states do have verification programs where people have to update every 3 to 6 months or, you know, really establish that they got some kind of need. But maybe she's proposing something at the federal level that would then have a federal component for, you know, applying and proving that you actually need this. Because I think all of us are compassionate Americans. Like, we want our fellow Americans to get help when they need it. And we've all known people, if not our own families, that have walked through these periods of needing this kind of help. But Secretary Rollins also said that she found there were 186,000 checks or SNAP benefits going out to people who were dead. So if that's accurate, that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. And there are other problems with the program, too.
So that was Shannon Bream, and she's right to note that. You know, in Kansas, you have to submit a report every 6 months to verify your information for SNAP. And then you have to do a complete full renewal every 12 months. And that is the same thing that is required in Missouri. It's a little bit different, but you've got to recertify your benefits annually. And for those who are aged, blind, or disabled, the recertification process is required every 2 years in the state of Missouri. So we have some of that already in Kansas and Missouri. Now, I imagine it's very easy. I hate to say it. I can't imagine that there's major hurdles that are actually being jumped over with bureaucrats in Topeka and Jeff City to really grill people on whether or not they still need their SNAP benefits. Like, I'm sure that process is not a difficult one, but it does exist. It is being handled by the states. So I guarantee you this thing's going to be caught up in the courts if the administration actually tries to move ahead with the idea of making people reapply for their food stamps. I don't know how they would do it at the federal level, since a lot of this is handled, obviously, by the states. I love the idea. Here's the problem. There are a lot of things that they have thrown out over the last several months where I've loved the idea, and nothing came of it. Anyone heard from the Doge folks lately? I mean, I'm just asking. I'm just throwing out anyone? Bueller? Hello? So, this feels like something that we're going to talk about, is going to get attention, and then it's just going to get lost in the shuffle. And I'm just here to say I don't want that to happen. I don't. You have seen an explosion of people being on food stamps. You go back to the year 2000, there were 17 million people on food stamps in this country. You fast forward to today, there are 42 million. The country's only grown about 25% in the last 25 years. In 2000, the population was about 280 million. Now it's about 340 million. So the country's grown 25% in population the last 25 years. The food stamp recipient count has more than doubled. That seems like a problem. That's exactly the kind of growth in government that we don't want to see. And we've seen that over 25 years. You even look at the food stamp growth over the last few years. In 2019, the year before COVID, I'm looking at this from the USDA website. In 2019, there were 36 million people on food stamps. The number is now 42 million. So just in the last half a decade or so, you've seen that number grow by 18 to 20% for the people on food stamps. That is unsustainable growth. Growing more than 100% over the last 25 years, and even over the last 5 years, growing 18 to 20%. That is not what we want to see. I mean, that's not getting people back on their own 2 feet and saying, hey, we're going to give you a handout just for a little bit and then eventually get you to the point where you're getting back on your own 2 feet. That's not what's going on here. These are people who are just kind of hanging out on the government dole, and that's not a sustainable model. It also is basically buying votes by one political party, if we're being honest. Alex is in Linwood. What's up, Alex? You're on KCMO.
Morning, Mundo. Hey, I've been complaining about this WIC and SNAP and everything for quite a while, and for a couple of years now to state people and everything, we receive a lot of payments in forms, SNAP and WIC for our vegetables. And the amount of fraud in it is insane. The people that have it, first off, a lot of them do need it. I will give you that. But there is a lot of people out there that also are using these that don't need them. Another big problem I see a lot is these coupons are being received by salespeople, selling goods that they don't qualify for WIC or SNAP, and then they are then using those to come buy their vegetables themselves.
So Alex, you sell vegetables? Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Okay, and so you, I don't know where you do this, but you do this, and then people can buy your vegetables with their food stamps.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly how it works.
So let me ask you this. How do you know that people who are using the food stamps to buy your vegetables don't need them?
Well, just simply from having conversations with them. The more you talk to somebody, the more personal you are, the more activity you're going to get out of them. No.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just genuinely curious how you come to that conclusion.
Yeah, just talking to them, asking what they do for a living. It's just forming a relationship with them over, a year or two.
Yeah. So you're seeing it firsthand. I mean, I thank you, Alex. I do appreciate it. And I know people who have needed the food stamp program and have applied for it. And their problem has long been they can't get off of it. They'll be like, hey, I'm good, back in the saddle, got a job, I don't need these anymore. And these are people who are, fiscally fairly conservative in how they vote and whatnot. So they'll call up and try to take themselves off, and they can't do it. So think about it. There's only a small percentage of people who are actually going to do that, who are going to be like, I'm good, I don't need this anymore. And even when they do that, they're like told, hey, no, you're good. You're good. Just keep riding the gravy train, baby. I mean, that's a problem right there. And for every one person who's going to do that, there are 10 people or 20 people or 100 people who are never going to call and are just going to keep that thing going until basically they figure out, someone at the government level figures out they're not supposed to be on it anymore. And that's how you go from 17 million people in 2000 to 42 million people today. That's how you grow a program like that by over 100% over 25 years on a completely unsustainable path. But until someone actually starts having the conversation, nothing's going to be done about it. So I hope that they have success with this after what the USDA said over the weekend, that they're going to make people reapply nationwide for those SNAP benefits. But and I know they're going to run into legal issues. They're going to run into rogue judges. They're going to run into governors who are going to say, nope, I'm not making them do that. I mean, you think Gavin Newsom's going to be like, sure, great idea, Mr. President. I'll make all these folks in California reapply for their food stamps. That is no way is that going to happen. And obviously, California's got to have the largest percentage of people of anywhere in the country who actually take these food stamps. And who knows how many of these people aren't alive or maybe illegal. We haven't even gotten an idea on what that number might be. USDA saying about 130,000 people on food stamps are dead out of 42 million. Not a huge number, but still, every dollar should count. Last thing here quickly on the food stamps. Someone texted in, Pete, someone's telling you a fib to get off food stamps. You don't have to call in. You'll be taken off. This was not someone in Missouri. Okay, this was not someone in Kansas. This was someone in another part of the country who's a friend of mine. So I know you're saying in Missouri you'll just get taken off, but this person that I was referring to, who I know, who was trying to get off food stamps and couldn't do it, they were not in the state of Missouri or Kansas. They were somewhere else in the country. So
yeah, we've heard more than one story of that happening across the U.S. So
yes, there are stories like that all over the place. And that's where you got to have tight rules and regulations in these states. And the reality is, with many of these major American cities, blue cities in blue states, New York, Chicago, L.A., San Francisco, those are 4 of your top 5 cities in the country in terms of population. You better believe there is probably a lot of fraud going on in some of these places, and that's where I would love for the administration to do something about it. I just want to see them actually do it and not just talk about it. That's what I want to see.
Remember when, hi, I'm from the government, I'm here to help you was one of the great lies?
Yeah. Good job by Reagan on that front. 30, 40 years later, I guess, he's still spot on with that. You're right. So as we roll through the morning here, I just want to note at 9:05 today, as we talk a lot about health insurance and, of course, coverage around health care, and that was a big topic of conversation during the shutdown. Last week, Channel 41 did multiple stories on what's going on in Olathe, and they talked about how Olathe retirees who actually worked for the city, firefighters, cops, people like that, saw a huge spike, huge, massive increase in their premiums, right? And I was fairly critical of the complainers. I said, well, what do you want us to do? Is the taxpayer supposed to foot your bill for health care insurance? Is that what we're all supposed to do now? And the answer to me is no. Well, one of the people that was highlighted in that story is a guy who's going to be in studio this morning at 9 o'clock. He reached out to me, and he is a listener. And he said, Pete, I heard what you said. I don't disagree with your premise. But my point is that a city like Olathe saw this coming for decades. We tried to warn them on this for decades. And now they're in a very difficult spot because they can't afford it anymore. They can't afford the health insurance they've been providing us. So now our premiums are skyrocketing. So for him, it wasn't necessarily about the issue of who should pay for their health insurance. It's Olathe dropping the ball. And Olathe not doing a very good job preparing for this inevitable moment. So I said, why don't you come in the studio? Let's talk about it, and let's hash this thing out and really get to the core of what you're trying to get across. So he's going to come in, to his credit. So we look forward to having Todd in just after 9 o'clock this morning on KCMO. We'll have that conversation with him. Now, speaking of healthcare plans, the president spoke about this last night. He's on the tarmac. He's getting ready to get back to work this week on behalf of the American people. And as the healthcare costs continue to skyrocket, the president said he's having what he would call fairly positive conversations with folks about a new plan that will hopefully help mitigate the health insurance costs that continue to go up.
And I've had personal talks with some Democrats. I can't tell you who they are. I just don't want to do that. It's not fair to them. About paying large amounts of dollars back to the people. You know, this was my idea. It came up during that. You know, oftentimes under times of stress, like the shutdown, you come up with great ideas that you wouldn't have thought of before. The insurance companies are making a fortune. Their stock is up over 1,000% over a short period of time. They are taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, and they're not really putting it back, certainly not like they should. So when I see this, and when I've seen this over the last pretty short period of time, I said, why do we just pay this money directly to the people of our country and let them buy their own health insurance? And, you know, I made that statement, and I made it a little bit cavalierly, but it sounded good. And everybody has picked it up, including Democrats. And I am talking to some Democrats right now about doing that. People love it. We're going to take the money. Well, if it gets approved, we're going to take the money. We're going to pay it back to the people of our country to go out and buy health insurance. Now, they can put it in a health account. We can do it a lot of different ways. But they buy their own health insurance. They can negotiate price. And it's going to be locked so they can't go out and buy a Cadillac. They can go out and buy health insurance.
Oh, I thought he was going to go full-blown Pontiac or something, but he went Cadillac. Okay. They can't go out and buy a Cadillac or something like that. Yeah, well, that's good. So this is a step in the right direction. Taking $150 billion and giving it to people in need who either are on Obamacare because they're privately, or I should say independently employed, they're entrepreneurs, whatever it might be, their job doesn't offer health insurance. It's better than what we've currently got. But giving $150 billion to the people and putting it in HSAs just kind of shifts the taxpayer money from one pot to another. It's better than putting it right into the pockets of the health insurance companies. It's better. Is it great, though? Is it really going to reduce the cost, which is part of the problem? I'm not convinced that it will. Because the money's still going to be floating out there, and it's only going to be able to be used on health insurance costs. So I'm skeptical, but I'll be optimistic for now. All right, Ron and Baystar, you tell me how you fixing the health insurance industry, my man. Good morning.
Hey, Pete. Hey, I'm not going to help you fix it, but one of the things, I used to work in consulting in healthcare billing, and one of the things after the high deductible plans came out, consultants and people in the industry, especially in hospital billing, they used to say that people that have a high deductible plan are basically self-pay, which means that if they have a $10,000 deductible, they're going to have to figure out. They just can't walk in and lay out their insurance card and say, hey, when I need services, I have this insurance, because they're immediately going to get hit with at least a $10,000 bill. So these people that have these high deductible plans, they're going to have to get smarter and start figuring out, is there a cheaper way to get services? And almost every hospital in Kansas City has a different schedule if you pay with cash than if you pay with insurance. And people are just going to have to go in there, become smarter. Your listeners are too smart for this, Pete. You're going to have to teach these people that they have to go in there and consider themselves to be self-pay and try to get those reduced rates.
Well, listen, I'm going to be biased when I say this, Ron, but the problem with Kansas City, the problem with either of our states or the country, it ain't this listener, my man. This listener, to your point, is bright. They get it. But here's the other issue. It's not even about how bright you are. It's about the fact that you can't really price things out in the medical industry, because even the doctors can't tell you what things are going to cost anymore. They don't know. It's like, I don't know, we're just going to give it to insurance and see where it goes. I mean, the thing is, the system's so broken, there's no way to really price anything out.
Well, there's legislation that's out there that every hospital has to have a price list. And so, again, our listeners have to figure out how to get to that price list and be able to compare those prices. When I didn't have insurance before I retired, that's what I did. I created a spreadsheet of all the basic costs of the four major systems in the in the Kansas City market.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll have you share that spreadsheet, because that sounds pretty helpful.
I can do that, Pete.
All right. You know how to get a hold of me, I hope. Pete.mundo@cumulus.com. There you go. It's not a bad idea. I mean, I'm open to anything, because the whole industry is so screwed up right now. It is absolutely broken. There's no doubt about it. I'll take that, John.
Well, I'm with you. I just don't know how many hospitals are complying. I know they're supposed to, but that's typical with the government here.
Well, that's true as well. Right. And I don't know if that's state legislation or federal or how that works, but, I'll just put it this way. When we take the kids to the doctor, they're not like giving you price points on this medicine and that medicine and this test and that test. You just kind of do it. And then, all right, what's the bill? I'll get it in the mail. Mm-hmm. That's how it goes. So it is absolutely broken. Now, speaking of things I got in the mail this weekend, I didn't know what I was opening. If I did, I would have waited until today to open it. I got the property tax bill from Johnson County, Kansas. And I'll tell you what, the stones on these guys and gals, unbelievable. They keep wanting more. I'm up another $250 on the property taxes this year. And I posted a photo. I didn't post the photo of my bill, because that would have given away a lot of personal information. But I posted a photo of just the top of the letter that Johnson County sent out from the treasurer's office. And I'm sure many of you got that in the mail over the last few days. And it shows you a breakdown of what your property taxes are going to be and where the money is going. The schools, the state, the city, the county, the whole deal. Capital improvements for the schools, things like that. And the state, the county, my city, and the schools were all up 5% year over year on the property tax bill. 5%. Now, I think like Johnson County Community College was basically even. There were a couple other things that were basically the same. But those big four were all up over 5% year over year. When over the last half decade, in some cases, they've been up double digits. So they might say, well, we only hit you with a 5% increase this year. Great. You've crushed us for double digits each of the last 4 to 5 years, half a decade or so. You've been hitting us with massive increases. And 2 weeks ago now, we had these local elections. The people who are portraying themselves as the fiscally responsible ones who were basically out there saying, hey, taxes in this county and in these cities are out of control, they all got blown out. Now, whether or not that's the candidate's fault, whether or not that's the fault of the Johnson County Republican Party or, different people involved with different groups, there's a lot of blame to go around. But to be clear, they all got blown out. And there will be people who open up their property tax bill in the days to come in Johnson County, and they're going to be outraged. And many of them will have not voted 2 weeks ago tomorrow. And for them, I just don't have any sympathy whatsoever. But someone's got to figure out a way to get these prices under control, because if not, they're not going to stop. They're not. Inflation is running 2.5%, 3%, and your state, your county, and your city in Johnson County and your schools, at least in my case, all want 5% more. That's about double where the inflation rate is at right now, give or take. 2.5% to 3%. They want 5%. Do the math. They're not slowing down. They're going to continue to abuse you until they have a reason not to. And 2 weeks ago tomorrow was the reason to rein some of that in. And by and large, most people in Johnson County said, I like the status quo. This was not about like Trump or MAGA or Republican versus Democrat. This was just about what's going on with your property taxes. And even if you're happy with the services that you've got, and I'm pretty happy. Trash gets picked up on Thursdays, recycling every other week. Last winter wasn't great when it came to snow removal, but, I'll cut them some slack on that. If I call the city, I got a problem, someone picks up. I mean, I'm satisfied with my services. But does it justify 30, 40, 50% increases over the last half decade? I'm not getting 50% better on my services. Are you? I don't believe most people are. So what are you paying for? Even if you're saying, hey, inflation's real. Okay, inflation's 20% over the last 5 years, right? So you want to charge me 20% more, I get it. But that's not what's happening to most people on either side of our state line as local government continues to grow. Overland Park 5-6 years ago had a budget of $300 million. Now it's $500 million. Johnson County, as a county, had a budget of about $900 million a decade ago. It's now $1.9 billion. Even with the growth of the county, you tell me, what's the county doing for you? Like, yeah, they have services and they do things and there's sheriff's offices and, health departments and things like that. But doubling their budget over less than 10 years? What is Johnson County doing with $1.9 billion? It's happening all over the country, but it's especially bad here in the Kansas City area. Now, Missouri and Kansas have different issues. Jackson County is just an utter mess. We've talked plenty about that over the last few months with Frank White and the property tax issues and the assessments and things like that. But if you think that we're going to potentially hit a downturn next year, let's say in the housing market, and come this time next year, your property taxes will go down, you're kidding yourself. They won't. One of the great scams they've run over the last few years is saying, hey, the value of your home has gone up, but we have reduced the mill levy, or we've kept the mill levy the same. Because what that does is it basically makes it so your property tax hit is not as bad. But they're still increasing your property taxes, to be clear. They're just not increasing them by as much as they otherwise could. And they want you to pat them on the back for not abusing you as bad as they possibly could abuse you. That's literally what they want. You're in an abusive relationship and you're getting beaten, and they want you to thank them for not beating you twice a day and only beating you once a day. That's what they're doing here. And they want you to pat them on the back for it. Chris, you're on KCMO. Good morning.
Hey, Pete, good morning. Timely conversations. My wife brought our estimate to me yesterday, and it's egregious. Do you know how much we're spending per pupil per year for the public schools?
In where?
Just Johnson County.
Oh, in Johnson County as a whole? I mean, I'm sure every district's a little different, but I don't know off the top of my head. I would guess it's close to 20,000.
Yeah, it's around 18,000. And it's interesting. I don't hear a lot of the candidates, whether it's governor, council, talk about that that cost, and B, any semblance of a plan to lower property taxes. And I know it's possible because my home state of Florida, DeSantis has he's going to propose it for the 2026 legislation to put it to vote to remove property taxes for primary homeowners in Florida. And I also own property in Utah, and my property taxes were actually almost cut by 30% from last year based on a similar provision that they passed last year. So we know it can be done. But when I heard that it was around 18,000, I live in Johnson County. That's just totally, that's more than, actually it's about the same what I pay. Most of my kids are in private school, almost what I pay for base rate for, private school without the additional expenses. But I hear no one, and this is another good point. If I just get another 15 seconds, I actually traveled on a trade mission with the Kansas Chamber, and out in D.C., and I met some of the almost all of the Republican candidates running for governor. And I'm not doing a plug here, but we need a business person in office. The only person that I hear talking about cutting property taxes is this guy, Philip Sarnecki. I don't hear Collier talking about it. I don't hear Aikens talking about it. There's Billings. These are all Republicans running for governor, and I only hear one person, that guy, talking about it. I think it's important, given how much we are overspending on our schools, which is hitting the majority of our tax bill.
Great call, Chris. Let me just add this. There was a lot of talk in Topeka last year about cutting property taxes at the state level. Here's the problem, and but
it's talk. It's just talk.
No. I agree with you, Chris. I agree. But here's what I'll say.
It's all talk, and they don't know how to. They don't know. The thing is that.
But Chris, let me just finish the point there, and then I'll let you go. The point I want to add, though, is that the state percentage of your property taxes is peanuts. My bill came in for the state. It's $100. It's nothing. And they're talking about cutting that $100, state property tax number. I don't care about that. How are you fixing and at least trying to lower or not increase the money to the county, the city, and the schools? Because that's where we're all getting abused, not the $100 going to the state of Kansas.
I agree with that. But the thing is that you got to look at the fact that they're career politicians, and they don't have the know-how, and they don't even know how to hire the know-how to figure out where they can save money.
Yeah.
And I just think that, as we move through the year, if you can get all it'd be great.
No. Trust me. I will get all the candidates in here when we get closer. The only candidates I've had on are those who, thanks, Chris, are those who have either announced on the show or they've been tied to some news, of the day. I haven't just done candidate interviews because we're months away. And to be honest,
nobody cares.
We're just, no one cares right now about that in terms of just doing pure candidate interviews. But we'll do it next year. Here's the thing. I don't care who it is. I know not well, but I know Phil a little bit. Nice guy. Don't know a ton about the platform yet. We'll do all of that. I promise you it's coming. But I don't want to hear him say we're going to cut your property taxes. I want to know what legislation is out there, whether it's what Chris talked about in Utah, whether it's what's going on in Florida, and I don't know what's going on in those two states. But that's the job of our legislators, to look at those states, see what they're doing, how they're implementing policy that is actually lowering property taxes, because that's not happening in Kansas right now, especially not in Johnson County. And the same old talk of, well, if you want good schools, this is what you got to do. Well, if you want good services, if I want good services, I shouldn't have to give you double what I gave you a few years back. That's ridiculous. You want 20% more because of inflation, fine, but double? And I want to hear an actual concrete plan from these people. If they want to say they want property taxes to come down, okay, what does that mean? How are you doing it? Don't give me the platitudes. And we're still in the platitude phase of all this as well. So we'll be tackling all that with the candidates next year. But, we had a chance 2 weeks ago to rein some of this stuff in, and no one showed up. 913-408-7957. How you join us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We are streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. 2 ways to lead a team: the Patrick Mahomes way and the Travis Kelce way. And I'll tell you right now, I like the Patrick Mahomes way a heck of a lot better. Chiefs lost yesterday to the Broncos 22-19. They are 0-5 in one-score games. They're 5-5 on the season. They are not going to win the AFC West for probably the first time in a decade. And here was Mahomes after the game.
It sucks. Don't get me wrong. Like, you gotta feel that, but you gotta be able to kind of use that energy to push it into the next week, into the rest of the season. And all you can focus on is the next game. You get another opportunity to go out there and prove yourself. And obviously, we've been losing these close games recently, but we've played some good football in spurts. It's just about being more consistent. And until we go out there and do it, all you can do is just keep saying you got to keep practicing and getting better and better, and push yourself to go out there and do it on game day.
That's a man right there. That's what a man does. Owns it, leader, takes responsibility even if it's not his fault, and tries to move the ball forward. No pun intended. Then there's the man-child way. That would be the Travis Kelce way. Travis Kelce, once again, did not address the media after the loss yesterday. Instead, reporters came up to him, and reportedly, what he said was, "If you're coming to ask me about the record, I could care less." He obviously misspoke and meant to say he could not care less about setting the Chiefs' record for most touchdowns in the regular season, breaking Priest Holmes' record of 84. That's fine. But you know what? As a leader of the team, as a future Hall of Famer, as a guy who is a global superstar who players on the team look up to, part of being a man and being a leader is getting up there and doing things you don't want to do when your team's struggling. And, if the Chiefs had just lost the game to the Broncos and they were 7-3 and a game back, maybe it's like, whatever. Okay. But this team, under this dynasty, if you want to call it that, has not faced this kind of adversity. There are guys on the team who have never seen or been a part of a 500 team this late in the season. There are guys questioning themselves in that locker room because it's human nature. That's what happens when you're 5-5 after, 3 straight trips to a Super Bowl and losing all these one-score games when you went 12-0 in these one-score games last year. But part of being a leader, part of being a man, is showing up and doing the little things and talking to the media, even if you're in a bad mood because you lost the game. I mean, if this was the actions of a high school pitcher after he gets blasted for 6 runs in 3 innings in a state championship game, I'd be like, come on, dude. Just talk to reporters for a couple of minutes. You'd help them grow. This is not a high school pitcher after blowing, a 3-run lead in the 9th. It's a superstar athlete. Been in the league for, pushing 15 years. Getting set to marry a global superstar. Arguably the biggest name in the NFL globally. And you can't answer a couple of questions from Kansas City media? It's not exactly New York or Philadelphia either. Kelce's done this on multiple occasions this year. He doesn't talk to the media, but then he'll go do some fluffy interviews with his brother on the podcast this week, and it's a joke. And no one in this town calls him out for it. I don't understand why we let him get away with it. And then he's going to yuck it up with Jason on the podcast and answer a couple of questions and be like, yeah, well, we got to get back on track, man. Respect the fans enough to do it on Sunday. That's all I'm asking. Respect the fans enough to do it on Sunday.